The hotel is a 3-floor shoebox off the highway, 40 rooms, 10 occupied, carpet that drinks the light. I work the audit shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., doors locked after midnight, buzzer to enter. My desk faces a lounge with 2 couches and a dead television. Behind me, an office with a glass pane and an aging PC that clings to our reservation software like a life raft. The cameras cover the lobby, each hallway, stairwells, and elevators. It's a quiet place to be visible and alone. First anomaly. At 11:02, a man in a baseball cap checks in. Mid-40s, tall, backpack, blank face that holds eye contact 1 beat too long. I key him into 214, second floor, near the ice. The terminal beeps. Green. He turns, leaves for the elevator. 15 minutes later, he's back in the lounge, sitting perfectly straight, staring at the dark TV as if a show is playing only for him. I let it pass. Guests wander, but his stillness grows like mold. Escalation. Midnight crawls. He does not touch his phone, does not blink much, does not sleep. When I cross the lobby for water, his head turns with me and keeps turning until I vanish behind the glass. He sits that way half an hour, then stands in the hallway shadow near the bathrooms, neither entering nor leaving, simply existing where the light fails. When I check the camera grid, he's a ghost that forgot to hide. Slow lapse to the end of the first floor corridor. 5 whole minutes in the stairwell, motionless as proof/receipt. On a whim or a warning, I pull the occupied room list. 214 reads vacant. No charge, no name. The check-in log is clean. My stomach drops through the chair. I open the key door report. No entries recorded tonight. The card I issued never touched 214. I dial the room anyway. 10 rings. Silence. The terminal insists reality is elsewhere. On-screen text. 1:07 a.m. Room 214. Vacant. Escalation 2. He drifts back, sits again, closer to the edge of the couch, angled now toward the desk. I pretend to type, keeping him in the window's edge. He stands, disappears off camera, reappears by the elevator, studies the ceiling like he's memorizing the wiring. The lobby smells like warm vending machine coils. Every sound is a footstep until it isn't. Peak image. At 1:41, the buzzer moans. A late guest returns. The man's eyes follow the stranger across the lobby, down the hall. You can see the attention like a line on the floor. When the door shuts, he approaches the desk and leans, face inches from the bell. "Food?" he asks, voice pitched low, like he's practicing inside a closet. "Vending machines," I say. He smiles without teeth and drifts away. On the camera, 5 minutes later, he stands outside a first-floor door that is not his. He does not knock. He counts breaths you can't hear. Action. Non-emergency puts me on hold. The lobby clock grows toothed. I call 911. Unknown male pretending to be a guest. System shows no check-in. He's outside rooms. The dispatcher keeps me talking. The man returns to the lounge and sits, hands on knees, posture of a patient statue. I imagine 214, pristine and empty, while the not guest waits where waiting means something else. Resolution. At 4:10, blue-red washes the parking lot. Officers step in, shoulders wide in the glass. I point. They approach him, ask for ID. He offers a card. Stolen, they say. No bags, no reservation. He wanted an unlocked building and a place to move without question. They walk him out. The lobby exhales. Aftermath. I finish the audit with hands that Miskey totals. When the sun bleaches the carpet from gray to allowable, I still expect him to be sitting there, studying the blank TV. Security rewinds show him slipping into the stairwell, listening, learning our rhythms. After that night, I angle the cameras toward the blind wedge by the bathrooms. I answer the buzzer only after I see a face, and when 214 says vacant, I believe it. But I watch the couches anyway. The worst guests never need rooms. Before I clock out, I print the door logs and staple them to the report. 3 blank lines where 214 should show movement look like teeth. Night teaches you this. Absence is evidence, too. Someone watched because the system looked away. I work nights at a small fuel stop on a 2-lane road nobody takes on purpose. The place is a fluorescent island, 4 pumps under a humming canopy, a glass front, a coffee machine that never quite tastes like coffee. Inside, a whiteboard hangs beside the register where I write specials in block letters so truckers can read them from the door. Company policy says no name tags overnight. After 1 a.m., it's wind, moths, and the pressure of the ice machine cycling. I stock cups, lock the back room, and let the radio talk to the empty aisles. First anomaly. He came in at 1:12 a.m., mid-40s, green field coat, hair pressed flat like he had worn a cap until the door. He didn't browse. He stood at the counter and studied my face the way someone reads an instruction label. "You always work this late?" he asked. "Mostly," I said. He smiled like the word belonged to him. "Meredith," he said, soft, satisfied. The name landed between my shoulders. No tag, no receipt. I started to ask how, and he flicked his eyes toward the whiteboard. "Your eyes," he said. "Most people use dots. You use slashes." He left without buying water or coffee. Escalation. He didn't buy anything. He left without turning his back, then came 2 nights later, then not at all for a week, then twice in one shift. Pattern without rhythm. Sometimes he parked at the far edge with his headlights off, windows black, engine a low animal hum. Sometimes he wandered the candy aisle and narrated small facts in a voice that wasn't threatening, only incurious. "You check the back room at 2. He said once, gaze settling on the zipper of my hoodie. "You carry your keys in your sleeve like a blade." Another night. "You don't drink the coffee after 3. He said it the way people comment on rain. When I walked to the door to photograph his plate, there wasn't one. Proof. Your receipt. The proof arrived as paper. I returned from refilling the windshield bin to find a Polaroid lying on the mat. It was me in profile, hair lifted by the night air. The plastic scoop pouring blue liquid. The word windshield was printed on the bin in block type. Someone had circled the slashed I in red. No note, no price, just proof that my back had been a sight to frame. My hands shook. I bent the photo, flattened it, and slid it under the till like that could make it untrue. When he came next, I told him to leave, or I would call. Escalation 2. He tilted his head. "Would it be easier if I bought a soda?" he asked. "Would that make this normal?" He tapped the counter twice with a knuckle, a slow metronome. "Curiosity isn't a crime." He said my name again, slower, as if weighing each letter. I picked up the phone. He watched the keypad, not my face. "You don't have to call," he said. "You already know I pay attention." His eyes drifted to the mirror over the back hall. "Smart to keep that door locked." He smiled at nothing. "When you forget, you feel it for the rest of the shift." Peak image. I told the dispatcher a man knew my name without a tag and left photographs without notes. While I spoke, he reached into his coat and placed a hotel pen on the counter, its branding rubbed away. He rolled it between his fingers like a worry bead. "You write big," he murmured. "You want to be understood." He stepped back half a pace, polite, rehearsed, and added almost kindly, "Most people aren't." 2 customers walked in. He slipped out with them and stood in the canopy light, watching me through the glass. Resolution. A cruiser arrived. The officers split us, asked for his ID, asked me to show what I had. I set the Polaroid under the bright bank of lights. In his coat they found a notebook, dates, times, notes about my coffee order, and the way my left eyelid twitched after 3. He repeated, "I'm observant," like a defense, as they walked him out without a struggle. Aftermath. The restraining order went through that week. Corporate switched my schedule and transferred me 2 towns over. Day shift. Too loud to memorize. Still, I changed my handwriting. I round my I's into dots. I print smaller. I avoid the long tail on my Y. Driving home, I watch the rear view for headlights that keep their distance too perfectly. At 1:12 a.m., my body still expects a door chime, and I listen to nothing anyway. I keep the pen he left hidden in a drawer. Weekends are mine. Thursday through Saturday, midnight to morning, a convenience store stitched to a 4-pump island and a patch of gravel nobody bothers to sweep. From the register, you can't see the far corner by the propane cage. A wall of lottery displays makes a blind wedge that swallows headlights. After 2 a.m., traffic thins to long-haul rigs and restless sedans. The windows shiver with each pass, and the coffee urn finally admits how long it has sat. I keep the back room locked, count tills early, and time my trash runs for when a car is already at the pumps. Little rules become habits. Habits become armor. First anomaly. At 2:57, a brand new SUV idled in that blind wedge. Lights off, engine breathing, dealer paper where a plate should be. I didn't spot it first. Two customers drifting in for cigars did. One craned his neck past the candy rack and asked, "You expecting anyone?" The other said, "He told me he's waiting on DoorDash." I checked the tablet. No orders in nearly 2 hours. When I stepped closer to the glass, the SUV eased deeper into shadow, like the lot had a second, darker edge. He left only when the men stayed in the canopy light to smoke and play with a shepherd who chased their lighter like it was a moth. Escalation. An hour later, two vehicles eased in nose to tail. Both new, both lights off, both backing into opposite spots where the cameras can't see. No plates again. Two silhouettes in the first, one in the second. Every time the dog barked, the nearer driver lifted his head and stared at the door, then down at his phone, thumbs moving like he was waiting on instructions. When one of the customers drifted toward the blind wedge and called, "Everything good?" the nearest SUV cracked a window, then slid farther back until even the mirror caught only darkness. They left only when the men lingered by the pumps and the shepherd patrolled the curb. At 6, one of those customers came back, sober eyes above a steaming cup, and traced a line in the air from the hidden corner to my register. Felt like they were citing a path, he said. I nodded and pretended my hands were steady. Proof receipt. Witnesses are a kind of receipt, so I wrote it up in the overnight book. Time, make, tag area blank, behavior. The next night at 3:08, 4 guys in work jackets stomped in for snacks and pointed through the glass. Same car, one said. Different color. 2 figures inside were arguing. The passenger jabbed a finger toward the doors, then toward the road, like he was sketching a plan on air. I couldn't see the SUV from the register. The blind wedge was doing its job too well. I moved to the side window by the ice freezer and angled myself so the indoor camera could catch a portion of that corner. For a heartbeat, the dome light flashed on. White paint, paper tag, no numbers. Then darkness again, the kind that means someone noticed me, noticing them. Peak image. At 3:31, the place went theater quiet. The nearer SUV's window lowered 2 inches. No music, no phone glow. The driver lifted his hand and with 2 fingers traced a slow line from the blind wedge to my counter. He wasn't pointing at me. He was pointing at the space I would have to cross if I stepped outside alone. The geometry of being taken clicked cold in my chest. Every step between the door and the trash can became a number somebody had already measured. I stood still and counted my breaths until the counting felt like noise they could hear through the glass. Resolution. I called the county non-emergency line. Hold music met me like an empty hallway. The SUV shifted, reversing into the lane that leads to the unlit exit. I hung up and dialed 911. I kept my voice even. 2 nights, multiple vehicles, no plates, coordinated movement, watching doors and cameras. The dispatcher asked if anyone had approached me. Not yet, I said, and hated the honesty. A cruiser turned in with more engine than siren. Headlights finally came on. The nearer SUV took the dark road east, and the second followed a beat later, as if they had rehearsed the timing. Aftermath. The officer walked the lot, wrote a report, shone his flashlight into the blind wedge, and told me to call sooner next time. I moved a convex mirror to chew up the corner and asked day shift to mount a camera on the propane cage. I keep the mop by the side window because holding a handle feels like holding a plan. When I take the trash out, I wedge the door with my boot and anchor the can with my knee so nobody slips past in silence. Twice since, I've found tire arcs carved into the gravel at angles that only make sense if you're practicing a turn in the dark. The tracks stop where the cameras stop. By day, the lot looks ordinary. Sun on pumps, squeaky squeegees, white lines scuffed by oil and weather. At night, it remembers where the blind wedge is, and so do I. If someone is measuring the distance between me and outside, I want them to find the math changed. The motel is a 2-story rectangle at the edge of fields, 25 rooms, and a front desk against glass. Nights run from 10 p.m. to 6. Lobby doors locked after midnight. A hidden speaker that dings when someone hits the bell. I spend most hours in the back office. A couch, a mini fridge, a muted TV, the camera grid humming above a beige monitor. Lenses cover the lobby, both lots, the hallway, and the stairwells. It's the kind of quiet that teaches you which sounds belong to the building and which belong to a person. First anomaly. At 1:57 a.m., the bell rang. I stood from the couch, walked to the counter, and found no one. Outside, empty stalls, no headlights, road black and flat. 10 minutes later, it rang again. Again, nobody. I checked the bathrooms, the vestibule, the curb, even the space behind the brochure rack. Silence put a film on my teeth. I chose to stay at the desk rather than drift back. I dimmed the lobby lights until the little chrome bell looked like a cold moon. Escalation. 15 minutes passed. The clock leaked seconds in tiny clicks. The ice machine hiccuped in the hall. I kept my hands flat on the counter and watched the glass for the ghost of movement. The carpet looked like shallow water. The bell rang a third time. I didn't see a hand, but the vibration traveled through the metal into my fingers. I leaned across the counter, nothing but the hush that covers a place when someone is deciding how close to get. I crouched, then straightened, then pulled the chair closer and let the room settle around the bell, like it was bait, proof/receipt. I went to the monitors, 4 windows of grainy blue. The lobby camera showed the desk, my chair angled, the bell a bright dot. The hallway camera showed the line of doors like shut mouths. The parking lot cameras showed cars asleep. Then the lobby feed flickered as if a moth crossed the lens. A forehead rose at the very bottom edge of the frame, only the brow and the glint of eyes visible. They looked straight into the camera, then sank out of view. The bell didn't ring. They were there anyway. Escalation 2. I stepped backward until my shoulders pressed the back office door. I turned the lock as quietly as I could and kept my palm on the knob to feel any change. The speaker by the fridge stayed dumb. I called 911. I whispered because whispering felt like building a wall. The dispatcher asked for the address, for my name, for what I could see. "Someone is under the front desk," I said. They ring the bell and hide. Eerie. While I spoke, the lobby feed changed again, not with a glitch, but with a movement that had a plan. Fingers, pale, deliberate, appeared over the edge of the counter, found the brass button, and pressed. The sound carried through the wall into my ribs. The hand stayed there, relaxed, like it had been here before, then withdrew so slowly it felt practiced. The dispatcher asked if the person was armed. I reported only what I had: a hand, a bell, deliberate patience. Action. The head returned, higher this time. A shoulder, a hood string tightening. The figure crawled from beneath the desk and stood, tall but folded at the neck, as if the ceiling were lower than it was. He walked a slow lap around the lobby, pausing at the brochure rack to drag fingers across paper. He lifted a cavern pamphlet and set it back slightly crooked, a small vandalism that made the room tilt. Then he turned toward the hall that leads to the back office and began to walk. Resolution. The knob rattled once, polite as a cough. I told the dispatcher he was at the door. It stopped. Footsteps faded on carpet. On the monitor, he paced before the glass, waiting like someone timing sirens. Blue and red finally washed the lot. 2 officers came through the vestibule, hands open, voices even. Between one blink and the next, he was gone. No silhouette, no door swing, only absence. Aftermath. They found the front door propped with a rock. Storage, bathrooms, closets, cleared. No one. Officers said he slipped out when the lights hit the glass. I finished the shift at the desk, chair braced to the wall. Every later ring, real guests, ordinary questions, sounded like that same deliberate tap. Now I keep the monitor bright and the lobby dim. I answer fast, but never lean blind. There's room under every counter for patience and a plan. The bell is a door you hear, not the one you see. Night work gives you a second set of ears. You start hearing the building's memory, the refrigerator's breath, the syrupy click of the thermostat, the far-off thump of the ice machine changing its mind. On good nights, that's all you hear. On other nights, the same sounds keep happening a little too perfectly, and you realize routine can be bait. Someone else can learn it, map it, and wait inside it. You notice the difference between a door easing shut and a door being tested, between a lobby settling and a lobby holding its breath, hoping you don't look up. Across these 4 stories, the pattern isn't gore or jump scares. It's patience. The man who never went to room 214 didn't need a key. He needed time and a lobby where nobody questions stillness. Paul didn't need a weapon to feel dangerous. He used precise observations like knives, shaving thin slices off boundaries until the room accepted the shape he wanted. The cars without plates didn't need speed. They needed angles, dark glass, and a blind wedge measured in footsteps. And the hand under the desk wasn't brute strength. It was rehearsal, the confidence of someone who had studied your distance from the door. If you work nights, motel, clinic, warehouse, plant, gas station, you already know this. Safety isn't only a lock, it's noticing what repeats. It's moving your routine just enough that nobody can trace the path between you and outside with 2 fingers on the glass. It's checking logs, plates, and angles, and listening for the second a sound stops belonging to the building and starts belonging to a plan. It's treating empty space like a question with a time limit and answering it before someone else does. Practical things help. Keep the back room locked. Wedge the door when hauling trash. Park close to the entrance under honest light. Angle cameras toward blind wedges, not just pretty hallways. Ask a coworker to swing by unannounced at random times. Script a phrase you can say on the phone that sounds ordinary but means, "Get here now." Put a convex mirror where the register can't see. Label keys so you can hand them off without explaining. Keep a spare flashlight where a stranger wouldn't think to reach. When something is wrong, call early, not after instincts have been negotiated into silence. Beyond checklists, trust what your body refuses to rationalize. Fear is information, pre-verbal, unpolished, usually right. If your chest tightens at a man staring at a dark TV, honor that message and restructure the room. If your name sounds wrong in a stranger's mouth, change your habits before you change your mind. If 2 cars want you to cross an empty lot, refuse the geometry. If a bell rings without a person in sight, treat the sound like a message and move the furniture. You don't have to prove anything to anyone who would rather study you than speak to you like a neighbor. These are true stories because they don't resolve cleanly. The cops take someone away, the shift ends, morning arrives, but the next night returns and asks whether you learned. You don't have to become paranoid to answer yes. You only have to be specific. Who did you buzz in? What changed in the camera frame? Which sound is 1 beat late tonight? What routine can you randomize without breaking the job? Which coworker can you text 3 words that mean stay on the line now? What would you do if power flickered while the lot went quiet? Down in the comments, I want the details only night people notice. Tell me the creepiest, normal moment from your shift, job, and city only. What was your room 214 situation? What handwriting did someone study too closely? Where is your blind wedge, and how did you ruin it for them? The best, most specific stories get pinned, and I'll read a few at the start of the next video, because a community that compares notes is harder to corner. Your habits might save a stranger who works 3 states away. If you found yourself holding your breath with me, make sure you'll hear the next ring. Subscribe to The Night Terror, tap the bell, and set notifications to all. It keeps the lights on and the stories coming. More importantly, it grows a network that answers back when the lobby goes still. I'm lining up more true accounts, hospital corridors that open onto the wrong voices, forklifts that move when nobody is badged in, monitors that reveal where the camera isn't, and late shift call centers receiving tickets from rooms that were never assigned. Until then, take the long way around the counter. Count the steps between the door and your car. Change what time you refill the ice. Let your building relearn you every week. Lock what locks, light what lights. Ask for a second set of eyes when the lot goes blank. Leave a footprint of unpredictability anywhere someone might be measuring you, because empty places aren't empty. They are pauses, and someone is always ready to breathe inside them. If the bell rings while the lobby is empty, ring back with a light